Hey, it's Greg here at MaritimeGardening.com, and I thought I'd have a little look around the garden, see what's frozen, what's thawed, and which one of the tricks I've tried to keep things from thawing or getting things thawed out have worked. So a quick look around here, and one great thing about watching your garden thaw out in the spring is seeing where it thaws first and where it thaws last. And pretty much all the snow is gone except for this corner here, which is in the southwest corner. And you know, it butts up against some trees and stuff like that, so it's in the shade. So I know, I can tell by the fact that this is the last to thaw out. I mean, the soil is still frozen in lots of places, but in terms of snow and ice being on the ground, that's the cold spot. And then everything else is warmer relative to that. And also, by making note of the places that thawed first, I know where the hot spots are. So halfway up this hill here is where it thawed out first. And that's south facing slope. I mean, it's not really much of a hill. It might be 30 feet high. And then this place at the base here, facing south, was the first part on the actual garden proper to thaw. And then these beds at the north end of the garden, which are facing south, those thawed out. And then these rock-bordered beds, and the rocks are just great. I mean, you border your gardens with rocks. There's advantages and disadvantages, but they capture heat like all get out. They thawed out next, and then they didn't just thaw out; everything around them thawed out. And of course, the gardens that are covered with the plastic domes never really froze completely. But you can see here, right up against the south end of the garden, which is basically in the lee of the forest. But another way, it's in the shade of whatever trees and tree cover in the forest. There's still snow on the ground, and I was filming this maybe 4 days ago. In a lot of places in the gardens, there's maybe the top inch or two is thawed because it was a sunny day. But you go down about 2-3 inches, and it's just ice. And all those logs and stuff like that you see in front of you there, I can't pick any of that up. It's all frozen in place. There's still a good amount of not just frost in the ground, but ice in the ground. We had a lot of rain this winter and not a lot of snow, but we did have double-digit below freezing. Anyway, here's the different techniques I tried using. If you watch my video in the fall where I did the compost tent, I took these gardens, I piled a whole bunch of mulch on top of them, and then I put leaf bags on top. And this one, most of them stayed intact, but this one actually blew apart about a month ago, and I just left it, number one because it just froze in place and I couldn't manipulate it, but just to see what the difference was. And here it is. It was probably March 22nd as I recorded this, and I can drive a stake into the ground. So none of the uncovered garden, like the one right behind me there, is just ice. You can't get anything in the ground at all. It's ice and it goes down a ways. This one here, you can see I could get that down a foot. I can get it down further too. It's just not frozen there. In a couple places in that particular bed there might be an inch or two of frost, but beneath that it's not. That bed right there with looks like grass is frozen. Now, I thought I'd dismantle one of these compost tents just to get a sense of how well that worked. Honestly, I think once you're past the spring equinox, there's no advantage to having the paper over these. The paper's good you know, as the days are getting shorter, because it sort of insulates the ground. You're not getting a lot of sunlight, not really effective sunlight, so it sort of holds the heat in. Whatever heat was in the ground, it insulates it a bit. But once your days start getting longer, of course, by keeping the paper there, you're really not letting the sun at the soil or the mulch or whatever materials under the paper. They just shade it basically. By having the paper there, you're keeping the garden in shade in a sense. So there's no real advantage. So I would say once you've hit the spring equinox, if you're in a northern region and using these techniques, if you followed my videos throughout the winter, these actually did a great job at keeping the gardens from freezing up too much, and I think they'll help me get a bit of a head start on my spring garden. But there's no point in leaving them on once you've gotten into past the spring equinox, because you've got some sun to work with, and you want to let the sun at the ground. So I take all the paper off. I still use this paper. I don't throw this out. Actually, I just did a video a few days ago where I used some of this used paper. It's still a good weed smotherer sort of thing to use in between your rows. Of course, you can always bury it in the ground. just let the worms at it or whatever. Anyway, I did a little probing here with the pointy stick, and it got through there. So I mean, for the most part, that worked, and I would imagine 2 or 3 days of sun, and without any sort of extra help or cheating or whatever, this garden's going to be thawed, assuming you know, we can get a little cooperation in terms of the overall weather. Now here we have a garden where I had these plastic squares, and about a week or so ago I put this plastic over it to try to thaw it out. It's still quite frozen. I could not get that in anywhere. That's in the southeast corner of my garden. Anyway, not thawed. This garden's raised somewhat. It's probably about 6 to 8 inches above grade, the soil level. I find the raised beds sort of freeze up more than the ones that are at grade in general, because they're exposed on the sides. And now I'm going back to that corner, which was in the southwest corner of the garden where I started, and I've got some of these plastic square things here, which is a sort of a really cheap, simple, easy way to thaw your soil out. You can even use them to get seeds germinated, although of course you can't leave them on for too long. But early in the season like this, when it's really cold and the soil temperatures aren't really warm, these are a great way to just create a tiny little microclimate there. Anyway, I thought I'd check this one out to see if it had thawed at all, and I don't know if I got through there at all. I think it's frozen up pretty good. Yeah, I don't think I really got much going on there. Oh, so right in the center. See, sometimes the centers do, you know. So that tells me that you know, if I can keep these on for another week, maybe it'll thaw out. Certainly the one to the right of the one I'm in right now, I sowed Swiss chard in that one, the one on the right. I guess it would be in front of where I'm standing right now, one over. The far right hand side of your screen, I sowed Swiss chard there on Saturday or Sunday, just a couple days ago. Now here's one of the beds. I did a video about a week or so ago where I tried putting black plastic down. I tried it in a number of different ways just to see if it works. I put the black plastic under the domes on the ground, and here's one where I put black plastic down over a fairly heavy mulch. The mulch on this bed is leaves, and it's about 5 to 6 inches high, so it's a pretty thick mulch. And I put this black on to see, you know, certainly to the touch. As I was recording this, I couldn't do the voice, the audio live. It was just too windy and you really couldn't hear me. It messes up the microphone. Anyway, feeling down here, I mean, even though the plastic was quite hot, because it's blocking the light, and it just didn't seem to affect, at least draped over a heavy mulch like that, it didn't seem to do much in terms of thawing it out. It was a little bit better off than it was the previous week, but it really hadn't progressed that much. So the bed that I'm working in right now and the one just to the left of it had about 2 to 3 inches of frost on the soil, and then it was thawed underneath. They had domes on them all winter long, and it did minimize the freezing in those beds. I mean, the beds that don't have dome, I'm only showing you the beds where I pulled these different tricks and stunts, because the beds that were just left uncovered all winter have ice just going down as, you know, ice just seems to go down forever. Whereas these ones, so I try to punch through here, and I think I get through, and you know, you can tell it's you know, there's a layer of frost there, but I can get through it. So there's not much more to do in this garden. I think, honestly, I think that the main roadblock is just how unbelievably heavy the mulch is. A bit later on in this video, you'll see a mulched garden with a dome on it that is completely thawed with no extra tricks or anything like that. I thought I'd just, for the sake of comparison, look at the other side of the garden where there was no black plastic down, and see if the soil is any different there. So this is where there's no black plastic, and the sun's just shining in. And there was still a layer of frost there. And I think as I got down in there and had poked around a bit, I think it was about the same as I recall from when I filmed this. There's a little bit of soil that's maybe half an inch of soil that can be moved around. You can see me scratching that up. So in a sense, it actually is a bit more thawed than the one with the black plastic. But there's still a layer of frost there. But you can punch through it with that, and it's only an inch or so deep of frost. And then once you're through that, it's melted all the way down, just like the other side. So you can see that's about the thickness of the frost layer in this bed. So that's still, these domes are incredible because the rest of my garden is not in this state. That's for sure. Anyway, so at least with a heavy mulch, the plastic bag doesn't really, the black plastic doesn't seem to make much of a difference. Now in this bed here, I scraped all the mulch away and I put the black plastic right on the ground. And this one was in the same state as the one adjacent to it, where there was about 2 or 3 inches of frost in the top layer of the soil, and it was thawed from there on down. But in this one, before I put the plastic down, I moved all the mulch away in that area. I mean, not all the mulch, but all but let's say an inch of the mulch. And look, I left a little bit there just so it wouldn't be completely exposed because I'm a no-till gardener. But you can see it's completely thawed, and it's basically ready to go. So the other side of that garden, I did check it, I did film it, but let's just say the camera angle was not flattering to me in terms of my backside, and I had to leave that footage on the editing floor. The other side has about an inch of frost on the soil, but it's almost workable. I think just a thinner mulch is the solution. And in this garden, this is one I have not popped open all winter long, and I got a very different kind of mulch set up here. What I had was a thin layer of seaweed and then a whole bunch of grass clippings and then a little bit of leaves on top. But I would say in total, in terms of the thickness of the mulch, it's probably just a 3-inch mulch layer. But this garden was completely thawed with no tricks, no nothing, no black plastic, no nothing. So, I think piling leaves on really, really heavy is not the trick. I think having sort of a combination of materials and most importantly, I don't even think it's the seaweed, because I've used seaweed in lots of other ways. Seaweed in combination with things is good, but using only seaweed, I found it's got so much water and it freezes up. I think it's this grass. It's these grass clippings. If you look at the structure of this, it looks like fiberglass insulation, right? It's got that weaved wool-like composition. So not only that, but because it's grass, if you ever had grass composting, it gets hot, right? So I think I had just the right combination of insulation, but also kinds of things that create heat when they compost and heat up the soil there. And there was worms. I think I'm poking around here looking to see worms, but there was worms active in the soil on this day when I was in there. The entire bed was workable. On yesterday, so Monday, I sowed parsnips in this entire bed. This soil is completely workable, completely ready to go. So that's already done and out of the way. Parsnip seeds are really tough and they don't mind being frozen, or they can sort of handle being planted a little bit early. They'll just come along when they're ready. At least I found that where I am, zone 6A, the kind of conditions we have. I've even planted parsnip seeds in November of previous years, and they've still survived the winter and been viable the following spring. So that's something you can just get right at as long as your soil is workable. Anyway, there's a worm just to prove that there's some heat in there. So anyway, some pretty interesting observations in the garden, these different techniques. I'm not saying, I think I still got to do some more experiments next year, but I honestly think that this is probably better than just going with plastic because it feeds the soil. But of course, the debate rages on. The black plastic believers will never let go of that, and it's possible they're right. But I think sort of an ideal mulch type situation is ideal, is better if this is evidence of anything. So I hope you found it interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. Check out the offers in the description box for my sponsors. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.